Hi there. There's a lot of discussion going on DeepSeek, or discussion. There's a lot of rumor around DeepSeek being a ChatGPT killer, and I thought it would be fun to see how much information is out there on FileMaker in DeepSeek. I did some tests already, and actually thought it would be funny to showcase you guys what happens when you ask it, can you give me an example of a FileMaker script in which you hook up a data table with some sales results and show them in an ApexChart using an API call. Well, it actually recognized everything pretty well and came up, actually really well, and it came up with the steps I needed to do to create such a file. I'm going to switch to that file. I built it real quick based on the information DeepSeek gave me, and I will run you guys through that file and see what I built. So the end result of that the DeepSeek solution looks like this, and actually that's pretty cool. You can resize your screen, and the ApexChart resizes. You can change chart types and everything in here real well. So let's see how you do this, how this works. Basically, what DeepSeek told me is build your table called sales, and inside that table make sure you have at least 2 fields, and you can add more fields, of course, and maybe a product name or something. But I simply use these date and amount fields and fill them up. So I'm inside here. I made a relationship. Right, you just drag in your portal, and I hooked it up to the current table. So that's basically what this part is, showcasing date and amount in there, and I hit the new button a couple of times, right, because you basically are inside the sales table, and it shows you the 12 records here with the amounts connected. So the data is all set, clean and simple. Then the second step is actually writing a script, and that script is also pretty simple, and there are many ways to do this, but this is what DeepSeek gave back to me. So I followed his route. We are on the sales layout, but otherwise go to the sales layout, show all the records. We have those 12 months there. Start sorting and start a variable. Well, the data that we're using for this chart is actually a JSON object. And we want to start a JSON with an array, because an array is a series of object information, key value pairs that we want to use. So I started out, or DeepSeek started out, by putting a bracket in there, a square bracket, to start an array. Then he loops through all the records, and for each record he appends a piece of data to that started JSON data, right? So he appends actually the key date with the value date, and with the key amount with the value amount. So that is actually pretty nice. And each time we loop through the record, next record, next record, next record, that data, a JSON data object, gets bigger and bigger. And at the end, we are left with that last comma that was separating each line of JSON with each other, or each object. And so in the end, DeepSeek is taking out that last comma and appends that bracket to close that array. And then the next call is actually a JavaScript call to the web viewer. Now let's first go to that web viewer and see what's going on there. You see I'm in a Dutch version of FileMaker actually, but I think it should be quite easy to understand. So that web viewer, first of all, it's important to know that web viewer has a name, right? So that web viewer has the name web. That's the reference we will see later. And by scrolling here to the right, you right away see that I have some information here outside the layout of my screen actually. And let's quickly go back to the DeepSeek for a second. You see that DeepSeek said, hey, I got here a piece of JavaScript for you, and use it in your web viewer. Well, I don't use it strictly straight into my web viewer. I could have done that, but then if you paste it in your web viewer as such, let's put it over here. You know that when you put text in your web viewer, that FileMaker won't accept, because you have to start with quotes. And every single quote you get here, you have to escape with a backslash to make sure that it all works. Much easier is actually to put your data off screen and then reference that object with get the content of that object. Well, my object is actually called content, so that's why it's a bit double up here. So you can see get layout object attribute content, which could have been data of the type content. Right? So that's basically what we're doing right here. So this object is called content, right? And I want the content of this content. Does that make sense? So I'm actually in here grabbing get layout object content, this object, and get the content of that content. Inside that content, by the way, I've added a parameter called height, and I actually substitute that with the height of my screen, and you will see later why I do that. But this is basically all we need. We have put a, if you don't want that whole substitute part, by the way, you could have easily said, okay, give me the content, right, and put it right here, boom. That's more than enough. I did a substitute for the height part and for the width part as well that I didn't even use, but that is possible. So basically back here, we need to run something that pushes that data into, so we have to run a script step that pushes that data into that web viewer. The JavaScript is already in that web viewer because we grab the content of that content object. So the JavaScript is there waiting for data basically. And now our script in the last step, you can see we reference our web viewer called web. The function name we called is receive data from FileMaker, and the data we use is $data, JSON data. That is what comes from all those steps through the data. And this receive data from FileMaker, that's only a name, right? It's just the name of the function, and the name of the function is available here inside this call. You can see that here at the bottom we say function to receive data from FileMaker. Well, that function is called receive data from FileMaker, and the JSON data is basically the data that we want to receive. So in the end, that's it. As soon as we hit update, we run that script. All this data is gathered, looping through the data. The JavaScript is waiting for that command of FileMaker to push that data to the web viewer. And as soon as you hit update, or when I resize my screen, and that's the last little trick I want to show you, is of course I did a script trigger that says when I change the size of my layout, run that script. That's it. So that's it. A nice little Apex chart